Chosen one, pause your scrolling for one sacred heartbeat and let these words strike your spirit like lightning. This is not casual content. It is a live transmission from the throne room, a divine instruction encoded just for you. If your eyes are on this sentence, understand, heaven orchestrated it. Your frustration, your delays, your sense of being locked out, it was all training for this precise moment. God now says the strategy once labeled forbidden is no longer restricted. It's not merely permitted, it's mandatory. The strikes of change are already rumbling through your family, your finances, your nation, and if you hesitate, you could miss the breakthrough designed with your name etched on it. Feel the atmosphere tightening. That's the realm of the spirit shifting gears. The enemies of your destiny know something they hoped you'd never discover. You carry a weapon they cannot counter. God has ordered, use what I planted in you, unlock what I concealed. Silence and hesitation belong to yesterday. You have been drafted, not simply to withstand the coming turbulence, but to command it. So stop waiting for comfort. Windows of destiny swing open, but they do not stay open forever. The tool you buried in fear, retrieve it. The audacious prayer you whispered once and tucked away, declare it. This is warfare, yet you are fully armed. Before we go deeper, drop 999 in the comments. That number is your spiritual signature, your tangible yes to heaven's call. And to every soul who has already sown into this mission through super thanks, receive my heartfelt gratitude. You are fueling the spread of revelation. If you feel led to give today, thank you. If you simply absorb and apply, thank you just the same. Your presence is a gift that moves this message further than any algorithm ever could. Stay with me until the end, obey the nudge you feel right now, and watch God accelerate what was stalled and shatter what was sealed. Ready? Let's go deeper, immediately. God's chosen ones, before the strikes happen, use this. Now it's allowed. For centuries, this sacred doorway to divine authority remained sealed, not out of cruelty or secrecy, but out of protection. God, in his infinite wisdom, knew the condition of humanity. He knew the world was not yet mature enough to hold what was too weighty, too holy, too immediate. Do you ever wonder why some mysteries of heaven felt delayed, why certain answers remained silent despite your cries? It wasn't because God ignored you, it was because he was preserving the power for a people who would wield it with reverence, not recklessness. And now that season of waiting has ended. The air around you feels different because the veil truly has thinned. What once required generations of discipline and years of religious rites is now being whispered into the ears of a chosen remnant, those with open spirits, quiet minds, and obedient hearts. That includes you, not by accident, not by birthright, but by divine selection. The old systems are crumbling, the outer world is burning down, political confusion, psychological collapse, families fracturing. Yet even in the chaos, something ancient is stirring again beneath the surface. What if the shaking of the world is not just destruction but activation? You must ask yourself, why now? Why are you being stirred just as the world teeters on the edge? Because you were never meant to follow the crowd. You were meant to lead during the collapse. This hidden divine code is not the fantasy of mystics or the fable of dreamers. It is a real spiritual protocol that God is unlocking only for those who have been refined through fire. This is the hidden manna of Revelation 2:17. To the one who is victorious, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name written on it. You are not being invited to simply escape the madness. You are being equipped to survive it, lead through it, and transcend it. This is why your spiritual tug feels unlike anything you've known before. It isn't paranoia. It isn't coincidence. It's a heavenly draft call, and your soul is saluting in agreement. This trick is not a trick at all. It is a sacred alignment, a spiritual recalibration designed not to remove you from your life, but to powerfully root you in it with divine awareness. Can you feel that inner hum, that vibration that tells you something massive is about to unfold? That's not just intuition, it's prophecy vibrating through your bones. This has nothing to do with churches, denominations, labels, or trends. It is far beyond performance. This is about soul-level navigation through an age where deception wears many robes and truth is often mistaken for rebellion. Psalm 25:14 reminds us, "The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him, and he will show them his covenant." What you're receiving now is not available on public platforms, it's not trending, it's transcendent, and it's for the few. Think of Harriet Tubman. She wasn't waiting for society's permission to free the slaves. She followed divine instinct when the law said otherwise. She moved in stealth with a divine map no man gave her. Or recall Nikola Tesla, whose insights seemed more celestial than scientific. People called him mad, but perhaps he was just ahead of the human frequency. Then there's Corrie ten Boom, who hid Jews during the Holocaust, not because it was safe or reasonable, but because her soul heard God louder than fear. And even Prince, the musician, who refused to be enslaved by the entertainment industry and chose divine identity over fame by changing his name and spiritual lifestyle. What about you? What inner instruction have you been postponing, waiting for confirmation that will never come from this world? Chosen one, if you're still questioning whether this message is truly for you, just look at the timing. Why did this appear on your screen now? Why does it pierce deeper than other messages? Because you're not part of the crowd anymore. You're part of the command. Isaiah 45:3 declares, "I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name." You're not here to blend in. You're here to awaken, to align, and to activate. This message isn't emotional hype. It's spiritual deployment. And if your heart is thudding with both fear and fire, congratulations. That's the sign of a soul being marked for divine instruction. The energy you've carried, the discernment you've held in silence, the loneliness you've endured because no one around you gets it, all of it was preparing you for this very moment. And now it's allowed. Now it's time. Joel 2:28 promised it. "And afterward I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy." This is not the end. This is the ignition. You are not random. You are the encrypted one, the 1% spirit code, chosen for this divine mission. And what you do with this moment won't just determine your future. It will shape the spiritual trajectory of generations after you. So ask yourself, chosen one, if God just unlocked the gate, what are you waiting for? We are now living in a time unlike any other, a time where the collapse of the outer world is synchronized with the collapse of inner worlds. Yes, missiles may be launched across borders, but what's being launched into the minds of millions is far more devastating. Why is it that the news broadcasts only cover what hits the ground, but never what invades the soul? Why does no one talk about the spiritual warfare camouflaged as anxiety, fatigue, hopelessness, and rage? Chosen one, what you're sensing isn't just emotional turbulence, it's spiritual invasion. The spiritual realm is no longer quietly humming beneath the surface. It's bleeding into this reality like ink into water. And if you don't sharpen your awareness now, you may find yourself overtaken not by bullets but by breakdowns. Have you noticed how the weariness hits deeper now? How confusion seems to enter rooms before words are even spoken? That's not just coincidence, it's frequency warfare. The battles we see playing out in world affairs are only surface reflections of what's raging in unseen realms. Angels and demons are not poetic metaphors. They are literal forces vying for control over timelines, destinies, and divine vessels like you. Ephesians 6:12 speaks plainly, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." If you felt like something has been targeting your peace, your mind, your very identity, you're not imagining things. You're under siege because you are dangerous to the darkness. This is not a time to postpone preparation. Why wait for the next crisis to wake you up? Why wait for your own mind to fracture before you realize the urgency? The battle is already here, and God is not shouting through thunder or flashing signs this time. He's whispering, and only those whose spirits have been quieted and fine-tuned can hear him. Are you listening, chosen one? This sacred trick is not some mystical backup plan. It is your primary armor, your spiritual firewall. Use it now, or risk being overtaken by what is already unfolding across unseen dimensions. This isn't about panic. This is about positioning. Joel 3:9 issues the call, "Proclaim this among the nations, prepare for war, rouse the warriors, let all the fighting men draw near and attack." If you're being stirred, it's because you're a warrior in God's invisible army. Let's talk plainly. The ancients feared what is now being placed in your hands. The prophets spoke of it in riddles because they were not allowed to release it in full. It was not withheld to punish, but to protect. Because in the hands of the greedy, the impure, or the arrogant, this spiritual technique could have undone the world. But now, God has unsealed it, not for the crowds, not for the curious, but for the courageous. You who have endured strange trials, you who have been misunderstood, isolated, and trained in silence. You are the fulfillment of Daniel 12:9. Go your way, Daniel, because the words are rolled up and sealed until the time of the end, and now the seal has been broken, because the end has begun. Do you understand what kind of trust God has placed in you? This isn't about joining a movement. This is about moving heaven itself. What you are receiving now is spiritual technology, divine intelligence embedded into your being. Think of it as the original Wi-Fi signal connecting your soul directly to the throne of heaven. There's no need for rituals, candles, or crystals. The requirement is obedience, stillness, alignment. Are you willing to shut out the noise long enough to access the sound of God's strategy? Because make no mistake, He is broadcasting, but only those with calibrated souls can receive the transmission. Think of Joan of Arc, a teenage girl who heard divine whispers louder than men's orders, who led armies with spiritual conviction. Or Malcolm X, who despite prison walls and public scorn, tapped into a spiritual clarity that reshaped a generation. Or Florence Nightingale, whose divine burden for healing turned battlefield horror into mercy and reform. Or Bob Marley, whose music wasn't just entertainment but spiritual awakening coded in sound waves. What about you? What are you carrying that this world isn't ready for but heaven insists you release? This is not just your moment to survive, it's your moment to shift the atmosphere. You were not born to watch history unravel, you were born to redirect it. And this technique, though simple, demands all of you. It will not beg for your attention, but it will change your reality if you give it. It's not designed to impress, it's designed to activate. Romans 13:11 echoes this call. The hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. Can you feel the urgency in your bones? God has given you what was once hidden. And now the only question left is, will you treat it like it's sacred, or will you ignore it until the fallout arrives? What you hold is not soft. It is the last defense left for those chosen to stand when others fall. Chosen one, heaven is watching. Now show them the unlock wasn't wasted. Heaven doesn't move by human clocks. God's operations aren't constrained by earthly calendars, election cycles, or the ticking of a watch. While humanity waits for fire from the sky or miracles to unfold on a stage, the Most High often moves in subtlety, in quiet conviction, in gentle discomfort, in those sleepless nights that whisper change while the world sleeps. Have you noticed the stirring within you, that persistent sense that something is shifting, even if you can't explain it? That is not anxiety, that is alignment, attempting to wake you up before the gates begin to close. Because yes, there is a gate, and right now, it's still open, but not for long. The entryway to divine safety, to holy instruction, and to true communication with God isn't wide, it's narrow, refined, and sacred. And it is slowly closing, not out of punishment but protection. The spiritual environment of this world is deteriorating at warp speed. While physical storms rage outside, there is a spiritual storm sweeping through the hearts and minds of humanity. Most will not survive it. Why? Because they waited too long to prepare their spirit. They waited for lightning instead of listening for the whisper. But chosen one, you know better. That sense in your chest, that ache in your soul, it's not random. It's the voice of heaven calling you to respond now, not later, not eventually, now. Proverbs 8:34 warns us, "Blessed are those who listen to me, watching daily at my doors, waiting at my doorway." This sacred technique, this divine key, is not some spiritual hobby. It is a lifeline in the age of deception. How much longer will you pretend you have years when you only have moments? How long will you silence the Spirit's voice for the noise of the world? The truth is, while the world grows louder, God speaks softer, not because He is weak, but because He wants only the tuned in to hear. That nudge you feel, that call to turn inward, it is not optional, it is urgent. Don't wait until spiritual famine drains your joy, your energy, your faith. You were not built to survive by bread alone. You were meant to be fed directly from divine frequency. There comes a defining moment in every chosen one's life when the world becomes too loud, too heavy, too broken, and you have no choice but to go within. That moment is here. What if your silence is the loudest? Yes, God's been waiting to hear. What if the words, "I am one with God," spoken in stillness, were enough to unlock a gate others never even knew existed? Don't let familiarity blind you to sacred power. This method, placing both hands over your eyes, is not superstition. It is alignment. It's a signal to heaven that your vision is no longer tethered to the world's illusions. It is a prophetic act, one that separates those who seek spectacle from those who seek truth. You are not wandering. You are being called in. The veil between heaven and earth was never meant to be impenetrable. It was always meant to be thin, but only for those with purity of intention and strength of surrender. This simple act, darkness around you, silence within you, obedience guiding you, cuts through that veil like a sword. Hebrews 4:12 declares, "For the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart." You're not escaping life by doing this. You're syncing with God's original blueprint for your soul. You're entering the divine command center, not by force, but by faith. It's not mystical, it's mechanical. Heaven's technology responding to obedience, not emotion. Think about Helen Keller, born blind and deaf, yet her spirit learned to see and hear through channels no one believed possible. Or Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who wrote divine revelations in prison cells as war erupted outside. Or Maya Angelou, whose silence after trauma birthed a voice that moved nations. Or Elon Musk, who despite controversy channels unseen blueprints for transforming the world, not from noise but from neural stillness. What could you release if you tapped into the same dimension they did? If you could glimpse what's waiting behind your spiritual stillness, you'd drop everything to get there. Divine clarity, unshakable peace, supernatural intelligence, that's what's on the other side. But only the bold, the ones willing to lay down their distractions, will receive it. Isaiah 30:15 says it best, "In repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength." But you would have none of it. But you, chosen one, must have it. You must refuse to be counted among the distracted and the deafened. This technique may seem simple, too simple, but don't let its quietness fool you. Its silence is thunder in the spirit realm. Two hands gently placed over the eyes, they form a gate, a seal, a holy signal. It is more than a posture, it is a prophetic gesture. When you block the physical world from view, you say to heaven, "Now let my inner eyes open." Just like Paul, whose physical blindness led to the unveiling of the spiritual dimension, you too are being prepared for sight beyond sight. Acts 9:18 reminds us, "Immediately something like scales fell from Saul's eyes, and he could see again. He got up and was baptized." When you shut out the outer world, you allow God to install new lenses. This is not yoga, this is not mysticism, this is spiritual architecture, an ancient protocol hidden for centuries, now returned to those bold enough to obey. In a world that's drowning in fear, manipulated by media, and twisted by confusion, the old definitions of protection are obsolete. Fences won't save you, alarms won't shield you, weapons won't win this war. Why? Because the war is no longer being fought on land. It's being waged in the unseen, in the frequencies, in the spiritual fabric of reality. And you, chosen one, must understand that your safety now depends not on armor you can touch, but on alignment you can feel. The sacred act, hands over your eyes, breath slowed, whispering "I am one with God," is not a cliché, it is a frequency shift. When you do it with faith, your entire spiritual field rewires. You disappear from the radar of the enemy. You go off-grid, not in body, but in spirit. You become untraceable, undetectable, untouchable. Can you feel how different that is from how the world moves, loud, reckless, exposed? We are living in a time where the greatest weapon used against you isn't physical, it's mental. The battlefield is your mind, and it's rigged with landmines of overthinking, fatigue, depression, and spiritual numbness. These are not just conditions, they are chains, and the enemy, he doesn't need to bind your hands if he can bind your thoughts. But you are not just another soul to be consumed. You are a chosen vessel, and God has handed you something sacred, something ancient. This isn't a mindfulness technique. This is a divine jailbreak key. Romans 12:2 speaks to this liberation. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's what this is. The moment you place your hands over your eyes and whisper the truth of oneness, you aren't calming your mind, you are freeing your soul. Those inner walls built from childhood trauma, emotional lies, the constant noise of social media, and the distraction of false identities are not made of stone. They only feel unbreakable because the world normalized their presence. But chosen one, you were not made to adapt to spiritual captivity. You were made to destroy it. And this act, simple, silent, sacred, is not meditation. It is a jailbreak. It is an act of rebellion against the matrix of mental manipulation. It is the moment your soul says enough, and when that happens, heaven answers. You will feel it, not just emotionally but physically. A weight lifts, a fog clears, and suddenly what you thought was imagination reveals itself as revelation. John 8:36 confirms this. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. You were never designed to walk blindfolded through this life. You were created to see, but not with ordinary vision. With divine sight, you were created to hear, not the noise of the world, but the clarity of God. You were born to think, not with a scattered mind, but with the mind of Christ. This sacred technique is the gateway to that transformation, but it will demand something in return: your full surrender, your silence, your consistency. It is not a shortcut. It is a spiritual blueprint for unlocking your inheritance. Use the key, say the truth, walk free. What was once forbidden is now commanded. What heaven once concealed has now been entrusted to you. Do you feel the urgency building? That tug in your spirit isn't random, it's divine. You're not being invited to consider this method, you're being instructed to use it. Right now, God is not asking gently, He is sounding the alarm through stillness, because the age we're entering into will not respond to intellect. Logic will crumble, strategy will fail, the economies and institutions of men will collapse like sandcastles swallowed by waves. In that shaking, only the spiritually rooted will stand firm. Psalm 91:1 whispers the truth. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. That shelter is not a building, it is your alignment. Think of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in a prison cell, yet walked out with more spiritual authority than those who locked him up. Or Harriet Beecher Stowe, whose simple pen pierced the heart of a nation and triggered spiritual revolution. Or Mahatma Gandhi, whose silence roared louder than any speech. Or Keanu Reeves, who despite fame has consistently chosen simplicity, privacy, and energetic alignment over chaos. What these individuals accessed was not human, it was spiritual. So what are you waiting for, chosen one? You don't need a temple, you don't need a crowd, you need stillness, you need surrender, and you need obedience. This technique is not a luxury, it is life or death. It wasn't given to humanity before because the season didn't call for it. But now we are in the storm's eye, and this method is your bunker. This isn't coincidence. Heaven scheduled this moment for you. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. This is the time, this is the season, this is the signal. Use it and live. The command has already gone forth, loud in the spirit, quiet in the world. But it wasn't issued to the crowds. It wasn't for the lukewarm or the distracted. It was sent to the remnant. To you, the one who has endured in silence, who has walked through fires unseen by others, the one who knew deep down that something bigger was coming, and now that something is here. This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is not another spiritual theory to ponder. This is war, and this is your only way through. You must obey it. You must activate it. You must live through it, because the bunker you build now will become your fortress in the storm that is already thundering across the earth. Look around you. The world is unraveling. Governments are crumbling under the weight of corruption. Relationships are snapping like dry branches. Communities are fracturing. Economies are groaning. But while all of that unfolds on the surface, Something deeper, something more invisible, is shaking the very foundations of reality. What you're sensing is not just personal chaos, it's prophetic turbulence. And what you build on in this season will determine whether you stand firm or are swept away. Matthew 7:24 confirms this. Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. This divine technique, the alignment, the whisper, the hands over your eyes, is not a casual practice. It is your only safe house. It is the blueprint of survival, coded into simplicity. But don't mistake simplicity for weakness. This isn't about hiding. This is about hardening. This is your spiritual bunker, not a place of retreat, but of refinement. It is where the chosen are not only protected, but prepared, fortified, commissioned. God is not calling you to cower. He is calling you to become immovable. While the world is drowning in anxiety, you will move in clarity. While others are paralyzed by fear, you will hear divine strategies. Why? Because you've activated your frequency and come under the covering of the Most High. Psalm 91:4 declares, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. Can you imagine it? The world collapsing, the media screaming, systems breaking, and you standing still, eyes closed, spirit tuned to divine transmission. This isn't fantasy. This is the real inheritance of those who build now. The spiritual bunker isn't a cave in the forest or a secret compound. It's not where you go, it's who you become. It is the internal sanctuary built in obedience, in stillness, in repeated surrender. It begins with your hands over your eyes and the whisper, I am one with God. That phrase isn't a mantra, it's a construction order. Each time you speak it, you are laying stone upon stone in the spirit. And every stone is a declaration, build now or fall later. No, you can't stop the missiles. You can't stop the madness. The collapse of systems has already begun. But here's what you can do. You can stop those forces from breaching your atmosphere. You can protect your mind. You can guard your frequency. You can make your spirit unshakable. And that is what this trick, this divine command, is giving you the power to do. You were never called to carry the weight of the world's collapse. You were called to carry heaven's stability within it. You are a living portal, a gateway of divine order in the midst of chaos, but only if you shield yourself first. Think of Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor who found spiritual meaning amid suffering and wrote Man's Search for Meaning from a place most would break. Or Sojourner Truth, who stood in the ruins of slavery and declared truth with holy fire, unmoved by the madness of her era. Or Desmond Doss, the combat medic in Dutwewi, who refused to carry a weapon, but carried over 70 wounded men to safety under fire. Or even Anne Frank, whose hidden journal became a spiritual bunker of hope for the whole world. What did they have in common? Inner alignment stronger than outer attack. This, chosen one, is your instruction. It is not a suggestion. It is not optional. You are not being asked to merely believe. You are being deployed to build. The whisper is your foundation. The silence is your mortar. The act is your shield. The time is now, and your command is clear. Construct the spiritual bunker within, or be exposed to forces too vast for flesh alone to withstand. Ephesians 6:13 urges this very moment. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. There's a reason everything around you feels more intense lately, heavier in the atmosphere, thicker in the soul. And no, it's not just politics. It's not just the media. It's not just economic collapse or culture wars. It's spiritual crossfire, an invisible battlefield of frequencies, where psychological and emotional warfare are being launched like missiles straight into unprotected minds. But you, chosen one, you are not unshielded. You were not left defenseless. You were shown the secret. You were entrusted with a divine activation that builds a protective field around your very spirit. You may still have to walk through the fire, but it will not burn you. You may still hear the madness, but it will not infect your peace. Isaiah 43:2 whispers this truth. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. This is not superstition. This is not mysticism. This is spiritual physics, real laws of alignment. When you operate in divine frequency, the lower frequencies of fear, hate, despair, and confusion simply cannot remain in your space. They ricochet, they dissipate. Your spiritual frequency becomes incompatible with chaos. Your aura shifts, your posture changes, your mind stabilizes. Do you realize how rare that is in today's world? To be unbothered, unmoved, undisturbed in the middle of the storm. That's the fruit of this sacred practice. Not to remove you from the world, but to let you walk through it untouched. John 17:15 reflects this perfectly. My prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one. That's divine coverage. That's your inheritance. Your imagination, chosen one, is not childish. It is holy technology. The world has mocked it, hijacked it, and reduced it to fantasy. But God designed your imagination as the sacred gateway between realms. It is the canvas where visions are painted, where the Holy Spirit communicates in symbols and scenes. So when you close your eyes, place your hands over them, and speak the words, I am one with God, you are not just quieting your mind. You are entering the control room. You are activating the projector of heaven. You are shifting realities, not through escapism, but through divine recalibration. Colossians 3:2 urges, set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. That's not metaphor, that's a literal instruction for energetic survival. This sacred act, simple as it may appear, begins changing your frequency within seconds. The moment your palms cover your eyes, your nervous system downshifts, your brain transitions from chaos to calm, your thoughts detach from fear and begin orbiting around faith. Your energy field, once fragmented by stress, becomes whole and harmonized. Have you noticed how peace arrives even if the world hasn't changed? That's not imagination, that's resonance. That's the sound of your soul syncing with the throne room of God. Suddenly, what felt like a storm becomes a sanctuary. What felt like panic becomes perspective. You're not imagining to escape your life, you're imagining to reshape it. You're not drifting into illusion, you're dialing into God's blueprint for your becoming. Don't let anyone ridicule this activation or call it woo-woo. Don't let them make you feel strange for using what heaven has given you. This is not fantasy, this is spiritual science. Your thoughts are electrical currents. Your imagination is a magnetic force. And this alignment method, this trick, brings both into divine synchronization. That's not emotional hype, that's power. That's the architecture of real transformation. That's why you feel stronger after doing it. That's why confusion lifts. That's why insight drops into your soul like rain after drought. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And this sacred technique is how you guard your heart from being infiltrated by this world's madness. Think of Albert Einstein, who often said that imagination was more important than knowledge. It was his bridge to breakthrough. Think of Harriet Tubman, whose divine visions guided her paths and saved countless lives. Think of Nikola Tesla, who received detailed technological downloads in flashes of mental images. Or Oprah Winfrey, who visualized her purpose long before the world ever recognized it. What about you? What if the visions flickering in your spirit aren't fantasies, they're assignments? This chosen one is how you move differently in a collapsing world. It's not about denying the chaos, it's about becoming immune to it. You've been given the spiritual mechanics for peace. Use them. You've been handed a divine tool for focus and power. Activate it. Because one moment, just one moment of divine vision is strong enough to override a lifetime of fear, and that moment, that shift is now in your hands. We live in an era of constant connection, yet the soul has never felt more distant from its origin. The irony is heavy, isn't it? We're digitally tethered to thousands of voices, timelines and feeds, but spiritually adrift. The screen glows brighter while our spirits grow dimmer. The noise is endless. We scroll more than we pray. We post more than we listen. Our fingers move faster than our minds can process, and somewhere in that blur, divine clarity gets drowned. But hear this, chosen one. God is not on Instagram. He is not tweeting instructions. He's not broadcasting through Wi-Fi. He's waiting in the realm the world has forgotten, in stillness, in silence, in sacred disconnect. That's where the power grid of heaven is accessed. That's where real transformation begins. Isaiah 30:15 declares, in repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength. The divine technique you've been given, placing your hands over your eyes, whispering, I am one with God, may look small, but it is the act of unplugging from man's system and reconnecting to God's power source. It cuts the invisible cords, pulling you into chaos. It reboots your spirit like a holy reset button. That's why peace comes instantly. That's why your chest suddenly feels lighter, your breath slows, your mind stills. It's not escapism, it's recalibration. You're not lazy for craving quiet. You're not antisocial for needing solitude. You're being spiritually recharged. John 15:5 says, "Apart from me you can do nothing." That's what this is, a return to the source, a reattachment to divine voltage. Chosen one, don't mistake the simplicity of this method for weakness. God's power often moves in what the world dismisses. This isn't a delay in progress. It's a divine download. And what heaven wants to whisper to you in silence is more powerful than anything the world could scream through a screen. Do you feel that truth pressing against your ribcage? That's your confirmation. Disconnect now before the noise deafens your discernment, because soon the signal of the Spirit will be drowned by the static of society, and only those trained in silence will still be able to hear. Most won't hear this call. Most will scroll past it, eyes glazed, hearts numb. They'll laugh at the idea, they'll call it strange, and then they'll return to their feed, their fear, and their fatigue, chained to a grid that was never built to sustain the soul. But not you. You've come this far for a reason. You're still reading because something inside you knows this is different. You feel the heat in your bones, the pressure in your chest, the vibration behind your eyes. That's not emotion, that's activation, because you are part of the remnant, the 1%, the sensitive ones, the obedient ones, the ones God can trust with sacred instruction. Then Peter 2:9 reminds you, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. You weren't sent here to blend in. You were born to break through. While others chase attention, you're being invited to embody intention. You are not here to make noise. You are here to become a blueprint of divine restoration. And yes, the blueprint has always been hidden. That's how God keeps it sacred. But He's revealing it now to a few, to those like you who have ears to hear and eyes to see beyond the illusion. Your sensitivity is not weakness. Your discernment is not overthinking. You're craving for something deeper. That's the spiritual DNA of the chosen. This trick isn't just a method. It's your assignment. It's not a suggestion. It's a code, a signal that unlocks your next level. And the 1%. We don't wait for permission. We don't debate revelation. We move when heaven speaks. You've already been shown the path. Now you must walk it. Use the technique. Open the channel. Become the very thing others only talk about. The world is spinning in distraction. But the chosen rise, not by increasing volume, but by becoming invisible to the system. They move in silence, cloaked in obedience, armored in stillness. Sometimes, power requires disappearance. Sometimes, the most radical transformation begins in retreat. You're not being called to the stage, you're being summoned to the chamber. Not to hide, but to be refined. In every major spiritual awakening, there is always a moment of vanishing. Jesus disappeared into the wilderness. Moses vanished to the mountain. Elijah was hidden in the cave. Why? Because the wilderness isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's where the old identity dies and the divine blueprint is downloaded. Luke 5:16 tells us, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. He wasn't escaping, he was energizing. That's your call now too. This divine technique is the doorway to that transformation. Don't wait for the crowd to understand. Don't wait for confirmation from people who were never called to walk this path. You've been marked. You've been instructed. Now vanish into alignment, into frequency, into the secret place. There in silence you'll find the strategy, the vision, the clarity. And when you return, you won't be the same. You'll be fire in human form, a signal in the storm, a blueprint in motion. And the world will never be ready, but heaven already is. God never unveils his most powerful instruments in plain sight. He hides what he's preparing to use mightily. And you, chosen one, are not being overlooked. You're being hidden, not out of rejection, but out of refinement. He's tucking you away from the chaos, from the spotlight, from the noise, so that you can rise not with noise, but with substance. Let others chase attention. hunger for validation, and collect followers like trophies. But you were called to seek the source. You were made to vanish into the presence of the Almighty, to be forged in holy fire, not fashioned by culture. And this sacred technique, hands over your eyes, breath aligned, whispering, "I am one with God," is your doorway into that hidden chamber, the divine vault where destiny is not discussed but decreed. Do you feel it? The shift in the air? The heaviness in your chest? The unusual intensity in your dreams? These aren't random. These are spiritual indicators. The tremors before the final strikes. You sense it in your bones, even if you can't put it into words. But listen carefully. Panic is not your portion. Confusion is not your inheritance. You weren't born to fear the storm. You were born to see through it. But to see through God's eyes, you must first break the inner seals. The seal of fear, the seal of doubt, the seal of human limitation. Isaiah 11:3 reminds us of this kind of vision. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, or decide by what he hears with his ears. Godly vision isn't external, it's spiritual. And to activate it, you must step into the silence where that vision is released. This sacred act, your hands, your breath, your whisper, is not symbolic. It's a weapon, a hammer forged by obedience. And that hammer is meant to shatter the seal that's kept you stuck in lesser awareness. Once you use it with faith, revelation floods in. You begin to know things you never studied. You see beyond time. You feel what's coming before it arrives. That's not fantasy. It's spiritual intelligence, and it is the only intelligence that will matter in the days ahead. The chosen will not survive by might or cleverness, but by spiritual sight. Not natural sight, but divine vision. 2 Kings 6:17 illustrates this beautifully. Then Elisha prayed, "Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see." Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire. The army was there all along. The servant just needed eyes to see. You must see differently if you want to live differently. No more waiting, no more delay. The command is now. Hands over your eyes. Whisper it with intention. I am one with God. Don't just say it. Feel it. Let it travel through your nervous system like lightning. Break the seal. Change the lens. Step into divine vision before the world is blinded by the storm that's already begun to roar. Because while others will scramble for solutions, you will be anchored in clarity. And that clarity, your divine sight, will become your shield. You are not helpless. You are not fragile. You are not unprepared. You are chosen. And your clarity is not just a luxury. It is your survival. It is your assignment. You were never called to echo fear. You were born to declare truth. Truth that shatters darkness, pierces realms, and shifts atmospheres. That's the weight your voice was made to carry. And you don't gain that kind of authority by shouting. You gain it in silence, in sacred solitude, in spirit-led stillness. Think of Jesus before he called the disciples 40 days in the wilderness, fasting, not performing, or Moses who disappeared into the cloud for 40 days, not to be praised but to be downloaded. Or Elijah alone in a cave, hearing not God's thunder but his whisper. Or even Martin Luther King Jr., who before delivering I Have a Dream, spent nights alone weeping before God, asking for strength. What was born in stillness changed the world. What will you carry out of your silence? In these times when words are cheap and the noise of man drowns everything sacred, God is raising a remnant. Not just any remnant, but a refined one. A people whose voices don't carry popularity but weight. Voices born in silence. Words forged in fire, authority granted not by platforms but by heaven. Jeremiah 1:9 confirms this calling. Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth. Most people speak from their minds, processing information, analyzing situations, expressing logic. Others speak from emotion, letting feelings flood through their words, carried by pain or passion. But the chosen ones, they speak from the Spirit, and when they do, something different happens. Atmospheres shift, chains break, the invisible responds. Have you ever wondered why your words feel too heavy for casual conversations? Why people either lean in with wonder or recoil with discomfort when you speak? It's because your voice wasn't built for ordinary ears. It was crafted to echo in the spiritual realm. You weren't meant to entertain, you were designed to ignite. That's why silence has followed you, why rejection seemed to stalk your confidence. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. But before a chosen voice is released, it must be aligned. Before fire flows from your mouth, heaven must first strike the match within. That's why this sacred technique, the so-called forbidden trick, is more than a ritual. It is a spiritual recalibrator. It doesn't just steady your thoughts, it tunes your voice. In silence, with your hands over your eyes, you allow God to calibrate your tone, your truth, and your timing. Ecclesiastes 3:7 says, "There is a time to be silent and a time to speak." Chosen one, this is your time of tuning. The world doesn't need another opinion. It needs your anointed voice. When aligned, even one sentence from you can shatter strongholds. Your words don't just inform, they prophesy. They awaken what was dead, break what was bound. That's the power of a sanctified voice. So stop doubting your voice. Stop rehearsing their scripts, adjusting your tone to be accepted by a frequency you were sent to disrupt. You were not made to mimic the world. You were born to rewire it. And that begins not on a platform, but in a posture, silence before God. Speak more to Him and less to people. Then, when the time comes, speak and let the fire flow, because you were never ordinary, and neither was your voice. Many are crying out right now, "Where is God? Why isn't anything changing?" But the truth isn't that heaven is late. It's that it's waiting on you, not in anger, not in shame, but in invitation. The gates are open, the blueprints are queued, the breakthroughs are hovering, but obedience is the trigger. Heaven doesn't move on desperation, it moves on readiness. 4 Samuel 15:22 reminds us, to obey is better than sacrifice. That obedience is not about strict religious performance, it's about alignment. It's about saying yes when your knees shake, about trusting when your logic rebels. Every act of surrender signals heaven, I'm ready. And when heaven hears that frequency, it responds with movement. This trick you've been given, it is your obedience test. That sacred stillness, that whispered alignment, that inner surrender. It seems small, but it shifts realms. It says to heaven, I'm not waiting passively, I'm postured properly. And when posture meets obedience, the gates burst open. Revelation pours in, power flows out. Suddenly, everything that felt stuck begins to shake loose. And if lately you've felt stuck, like you're circling the same spiritual mountain, it's not because you've been forgotten, it's because you've outgrown the level you're on. Your next dimension isn't unlocked by effort, it's accessed by surrender. You cannot hold new oil in old skins. You cannot receive rain with your cup turned upside down. Luke 5:38 says, new wine must be poured into new wineskins. God is not waiting on your perfection, He is waiting on your yes. And your yes doesn't have to be shouted. It begins in stillness, hands over your face, eyes closed, heart open, whispering, I align, I surrender, I trust. Chosen one, stop waiting on God like He's a delayed train. Heaven is fully loaded. The answers, the clarity, the momentum you've prayed for, they're all suspended in the realm of readiness. Your readiness. Obedience is the ignition switch. Revelation is the explosion that follows. The impossible is not blocked. It's simply paused, waiting for your move. And now, that move is yours. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why that sudden surge of anxiety feels like a siren rather than a flaw? Chosen one, what if every tremor of emotion, each wave of grief, each flicker of frustration is actually divine code pulsing through your inner circuitry, warning you that your spirit has drifted off track or announcing that a brand new revelation is ready to be birthed? Too many voices have told you to bury those feelings, to paint over them with positivity or shame them into silence. But the remnant learns quickly, feelings are not enemies, they are flags. Psalm 34:18 promises, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Could that closeness be the reason tears sting your eyes at just the right moment? When you slip into stillness, hands covering your eyes, you aren't muting the chaos merely for peace and quiet. You're handing your inner world a microphone. Beneath trembling fear often lies crystal clear direction. Under the weight of sadness sits unmined revelation. But you will never hear heaven's subtext if you keep numbing the signals. Sit, align, and let the emotions rise, not to break you, but to break you open. God crafted your nervous system as an early warning antenna, not a weakness to despise. He designed anger to ignite righteous passion, sorrow to sharpen holy empathy, and fear to transform into fearless fire. How different would your days look if you treated every intense feeling as a private meeting request from the King? Proverbs 20:27 declares, "The spirit of a person is the lamp of the Lord, searching all the inward parts." When that lamp flickers, heaven is inspecting your depths. So don't sprint away from the surge. Run with it straight toward the throne. In that sacred chamber, rage becomes fuel, grief becomes depth, and panic becomes prophetic urgency. Frida Kahlo turned lifelong pain into canvases that still heal millions. What masterpieces lie dormant in your own ache? Rosa Parks froze an entire bus system with a single, spirit-anchored no. What societal chains could your aligned conviction snap? Steve Jobs visualized devices in silence before the world ever swiped a screen. What world-shifting blueprints are waiting behind your eyelids? Marie Curie followed the curiosity others called dangerous and unlocked elements that changed medicine. What hidden element of destiny is vibrating inside your unrest? Chosen one. The future isn't a far-off decade. It's compressed inside your chest, like a time-release capsule. Jeremiah 33 invites, "Call to me and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." Those great and unsearchable plans aren't delivered through busy schedules and multitask hustle. They upload in stillness. The forbidden trick, palms to eyes, breath slowed, whispering, "I am one with God," is more than protection from spiritual fallout. It is the docking port for tomorrow's blueprints. Seconds after you unplug from man's grid and jack into God's frequency, peace rushes in, strategies unfold, and creativity you never studied starts sketching itself across your mind. Why do you think the enemy wages an all-out assault on your quiet time? He's not threatened by your hurry. He's terrified of your alignment. Because once you tap in, you stop following the old world and start architecting a new one. Yes, waves of emotion may keep swelling, but remember, they are not tidal bosses meant to drown you. They are data packets from heaven, rerouting you toward the center of your assignment. 2 Timothy 1:7 anchors this. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Power to innovate, love to heal, clarity to interpret every inner signal correctly. Imagine letting the next spike of anxiety drive you to stillness instead of scrolling. Picture grief ushering you into depths where you meet God as the comforter, and you emerge holding comfort for nations. Feel anger transmuting into laser-focused courage that slices through injustice. When emotions are healed and harmonized, they don't derail you, they empower you. So here is your moment of exchange. Close your eyes, chosen one. Cover them with your hands. Whisper aloud, "I align, I surrender, I trust." Allow the Spirit to search, to signal, to secure. Let every feeling rise and be baptized in divine light. Watch blueprints flash like constellations behind your eyelids. See the inventions, the books, the social revolutions, the technological leaps encoded in your essence. Then dare to ask, if God wired me this way, who am I to mute the very alerts that guide me? Who might be waiting on the other side of my healed emotion? What culture-shifting idea is hostage to my next 5 minutes of obedient silence? Push past the urge to flee and stay until the download completes. The world is frantic for the next novelty, but heaven is recruiting for the next innovators. You carry both radar and remedy, warning and wonder, signal and solution. So, chosen one, will you keep shushing your soul, or will you finally treat every pulse of feeling as a royal summons? Break the stigma, decode the emotion, activate the trick, and watch the impossible future already seeded inside you burst into inevitable reality. You are not waiting on the future, you are the future. You are not begging for the world to shift, you are the very shift it's crying out for. Somewhere right now, someone is praying for a breakthrough, a mentor, a leader, a healer, and the answer to that prayer is you. Not the version of you waiting for permission, the real you. Heaven's strategy, wrapped in skin, coded with divine answers. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs you, chosen one, in your fullness, in your fire, in your flow. Stop waiting for external change. Go inward. Tap into the well you've carried all along. That stirring you feel, that inner pull, that ache of separation. It's not abandonment, it's activation. Yes, it feels like isolation, like you've been exiled, forgotten, passed over. But what if your loneliness is sacred? What if it's not punishment? but preparation. Every move of God begins with separation. Joseph was separated in prison, David in the fields, Esther in silence, Jesus in the wilderness. Why? Because the crowd would dilute you. The noise would distort your frequency. Before elevation, there must be excavation. God strips away what cannot accompany your assignment. He removes the idols, the distractions, the noise, and it hurts, but it's holy. John 15:2 echoes this. Every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. Your pruning is your proof. You're not being punished, you're being prepared for places others cannot go. This divine technique, hands over eyes, entering stillness, is not just for comfort. It's for those in the wilderness, the misfits, the hidden ones. If no one else gets you, God does. He meets you where no words exist, in silence, in breath, in pain. There he whispers identity, strategy, authority. This practice doesn't just soothe your isolation, it sanctifies it. It converts loneliness into launch mode. It doesn't delay your destiny, it downloads it. Don't rush back to the crowd. Don't hurry for applause. Let God finish the fire. Let the silence finish the sentence. Place your hands over your eyes. Whisper, I am one with God. And know this, you are not forsaken. You are being formed. And when you emerge, it won't be as someone seeking validation, but as someone who carries revelation. You've been taught to divide the spiritual from the physical, to see your body as a limitation, a shell, even a curse. But that's a lie. Your body isn't a hindrance to holiness, it's the housing for it. 1 Corinthians 6:19 reminds us, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you? You are a living sanctuary. Every ache, every chill, every surge of instinct is a signal. Your body remembers what your mind forgot. It holds divine memory. When you feel that tension, that fatigue, that gut pull, it's not random, it's a message. God wired your biology to resonate with His presence. He speaks through your rest, your breath, your stillness. That's why this sacred practice is so powerful. When you place your hands over your face, you're not just calming the mind, you're aligning the whole vessel. Your nervous system begins to release. Your trauma begins to exhale. Your mind begins to let go. You don't just connect with God spiritually, you feel Him physiologically. That's what makes this practice different from performance. It's healing. You begin to detox old fear, old shame, old programming. The spirit speaks, the body obeys. And suddenly, your being becomes a bridge, not a barrier, a channel, not a cage. Psalm 139:14 declares, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Stop treating your body like it's in the way. Invite God into it, nourish it, respect it, listen to it. Because when your body aligns with your spirit, you become a living portal, a divine signal of presence, power, and purpose. And what about that feeling? The one that's followed you since childhood, the one that says, you're too much, you don't fit, you're too different. That wasn't rejection, that was recognition. You weren't made to belong to broken systems. You were designed to break them. You've always questioned what others accept. You've always felt the friction in places others found comfort. And that wasn't rebellion, it was divine insight. You saw the cracks in the world's programming because you were sent to recode it. You were never meant to walk through open doors. You were meant to build new ones. Romans 12:2 calls you to this. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Your difference is not your defect, it is your design. Beloved, as we close this journey, remember this. The sacred technique you've been shown is not merely a shelter, it is a spiritual ignition. It is not just a practice of stillness, but a divine act of obedience that reshapes your inner world and activates your eternal assignment. You were never designed to merely survive this life, you were sent to illuminate it. This world may reward comfort and conformity, but heaven honors courage and consecration. And sometimes that obedience requires you to stand alone in the fire, misunderstood, unseen, even ridiculed, but still unwavering. Because you, chosen one, were not built to fold under pressure, you were built to forge under it. The storm may swirl, but you don't run from it. You walk into it, not to be consumed, but to confront and command it from the inside out. This is what your wilderness was for. This is why you were hidden. You are not a mistake, You are a divine fracture line carved into the foundation of a crumbling world to split the darkness and usher in revelation. That's why you've never quite fit in, because you weren't created to blend. You were created to break through. So instead of dimming your light to match the room, blaze unapologetically. Let this sacred trick keep your spirit grounded and your assignment sharp. Place your hands over your eyes, whisper the truth, and remember who you are every single time. Thank you for walking this path with me. Your presence, your hunger for depth, your willingness to journey through the uncomfortable into the extraordinary, it all matters. Whether you've been silently receiving or actively engaging, you are seen. And if you found value in this message and wish to support more revelations like this, you can donate through Super Thanks. But hear this clearly, whether you give or not, you are deeply appreciated. Your energy, your time, your spirit showing up here means everything. There's no such thing as a small offering when it comes from a big heart. May blessings overflow in your life. May peace guard your mind like armor. May your alignment remain strong, your vision stay clear, and your voice rise with holy fire. You are not alone. You are not late. You are exactly where heaven needs you to be. And now, as you go forward, may every step be guided, every silence be sacred, and every activation unleash the future you were born to build. Now go. Use the trick. Stay grounded, burn brighter, and never forget, you are the blueprint.